everyone, and welcome back to Bears on Tap. I'm your host, Suarez. You can follow me on Twitter at Bdon300. As you can see, Ron is already cracking a beer, and I asked myself why. Because this is the way too early 17-0 prediction show brought to you by the Bears on Tap boys. We were Ron-less last week. We're Joey-less today, but got the schedule, got the order. We knew the teams for a while and knew who we were going to play, but the order of it all matters because, why not? And the win totals are out. Everything is out. So we're going to go through the schedule, go through our predictions, the way too early predictions, as you know, the 17-0 show. But, Ron, how are you today, my guy?
I'm good. It's good to be back. It's good to be talking Bears football with you guys. The Cubs are winning, too, which is all cool and tough. So, spirits are high, and we got a nice ice-cold Texas ranch water on deck for tonight to talk through the Bears schedule. I'm excited. This is when we start actually getting excited about football because now we know who the Bears are playing, when they're playing them, and like you said, why we're going to think they win certain games and why we're thinking they're going to lose games. So it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, and it's the middle of May. We got 3.5 months, 4 months maybe, and then we're right back in the thick of things. But Quintin, how about you, my guy?
Good, man. One of the things I always think is a little overlooked in the mania of schedule release, because you get like half people who are pumped up about it and half people who are like, why do we care about this? But just getting an idea for the way the season's going to flow and the way that are we going to be looking at a team that might be 5-0 or 0-5 to start the season and how that might build our expectations from there. Will it be a team that has a chance in December, that they're in that playoff picture box that they put up on the TV, or are they a team that's going to be fighting to get back into it? And so that's something that I'm excited to talk about here.
If there's 3 things that you can count on in this world, it's death, taxes, and the Chicago Bears being in the hunt with like a sub 500 record, like a 6-5 or 5-6 or 4-7, but like at the very bottom of the graphic. Yeah. And then like a week later it vanishes. But a couple things before we get into the actual Bears schedule. I'm sure you guys saw other teams' schedule releases. I'm sure you guys saw the Bears. Ron, I'll start with you. Do you have like a favorite schedule release from an NFL team this year?
There were some really creative ones. Like, I'm actually just impressed of how all out some teams went. I think the one that I saw that I laughed the hardest at because of just how good it was for what they were trying to go for was the Chargers. Because they did like an anime one. Yeah. And I'm admittedly not a big anime person.
Neither am I, but I saw that shit and I was like...
I know the style of the anime that they were trying to portray, and they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. It was hysterical. So... a big kudos to them. I thought theirs was kind of unique and kind of creative. That was actually really the only one I've seen actually outside of the Bears. Everybody else's I really haven't looked into yet. But that was one that it was so good. People were like sharing it with me.
Yeah, no, I have one for the least favorite, but Quentin, I'll let you go first.
It's just disrespectful to say anything but Chargers. That thing was
all right. We're all voting.
That thing was utterly beautiful.
It was so good.
They had it. All right. When they announced the Atlanta game, it was like a Waffle House sign. It said 28 waffles for $3 or something like that. It's just beautiful.
Did you see what they announced for the Browns?
Oh yeah, dude.
We can't say it, otherwise it might get us canceled.
Or for the Jaguars, they had a Jaguar dressed like Urban Meyer in a dark bar, just like sitting at a bar stool. It's incredible.
I'm like rib cracking right now because I'm like thinking of how funny that video was. But NFL social teams have been getting really creative, and is not to make this bolts on tap or whatever, but the Chargers social team is usually the one leading the charge for like the funny posts that we see, whether it's team to team just by themselves posting stuff, and like they're an A1 team, and hopefully they don't get motherfucked like at Bears admin does, because that would just be terrible because they're hilarious. But I will lead off with the one that I did not like, and I'm sure Ron, you may have saw this one, but it was the Falcons, and they just did it was like a bunch of chicken wings.
I did see that.
But it didn't look like chicken wings.
No, it was.
They looked like dinosaur fossils, bro. Like, I don't know how to explain it without putting it up on the screen, but the Falcons, not great at many things outside of the kicking game, where they just, they extended Young Hoku, and it's a good fantasy option for those of you guys. And, you can start running through your mock drafts, your way too early mock drafts. But I think, they tried too hard and they just fell flat on their face. Did anyone else see any other teams?
The Bears is worth a chuckle.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Just with them just tossing the ball, and then you see the ball flying through the air, and then suddenly it lands where they're trying to put it. It was solid.
I actually have another nominee since you guys both went Chargers, I'll be devil's advocate. When we're done, go look at the Lions. Do you know the Detroit survival guy? The guy who posts Twitter and Instagram videos. He's like an African American guy. He's got a little ponytail. And he walks around in a SWAT bulletproof vest, and he just works in a gym, and he just shows people how to disarm people and how to get out of getting jumped and stuff. And it's it honestly, none of the advice looks like it's credible. You look like if you tried this, you're for sure gonna get beat up. But the Lions had this guy do the release, and it's that's another one that's worth a chuckle. But
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, that screams Dan Campbell's fingerprints all over.
Oh my God, yeah, no, this guy has been embraced by Detroit, and he is he's so unintentionally funny that he's just hilarious. So yeah, if you have a second, check out the Lions and check out the Chargers. But the 17-0 show, and I mean, let's get started. We won't talk about the preseason because we're going to end up starting the preseason talking about the games beforehand and after the games, just like regular games, because why not? This rookie class is very intriguing. We want to get our thoughts out before and after. But for now, we'll start with the San Francisco 49ers, the team that made it to the NFC Championship last year. I think they really overperformed a team that really was like the Rams' kryptonite until that final game. And they took out the Packers. They somehow still have Deebo Samuel. I don't know if Deebo Samuel will still be with them week one, just based on how the receiver market is currently. But Ron, I'll start with you. How do you think we match up with this year's new San Francisco 49ers?
I mean, just look at last year, how they matched up with them. It was a close game. And I mean, you could argue if the defense maybe doesn't give up as many scores late in that game, they somehow have a chance to win. Justin Fields, probably with one of his highlight plays of the year in that game on the 4th and 1, pivoting, reversing field, showing the athlete that he was, and ultimately scoring a huge touchdown there for the Bears against the 49ers at Soldier Field last time. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I don't think San Francisco is this team that's gonna outbeat, or not outbeat, that doesn't make any sense, but outplay the Bears that drastically in week one. I don't think this is gonna be some 28-10 shit kicking or anything like that. I think it's gonna be a close game. I think the Bears have a chance to win it. I'll pessimistically say that they won't, but I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be within one score.
They are 6.5-point underdogs for week one, which is
there's your one score.
I don't know how you handicap a game, and what is it, September 11th, and it's May 15th. That seems absurd to me, but Q for you.
Yeah, it is absurd that there's lines out already.
How the hell
the lines that I looked at, I love so many dogs right now. I'm glad my site doesn't have them up yet, because I just be throwing stupid bets on these. I did it last year and I forgot about them, and then week one I bet the other side of a few, and I was like, well, I'm even. I guess.
Yeah, you can't complain. And I mean, it's week one. It's week one. If there's any week for chaos to happen in an NFL season or any game, football, basketball, hockey, any sport, it's week one, game one, match one, where it's just we don't really know what we got. We've just been practicing for a while. Let's see what it looks like out there on the field. But how do you think we match up against the 49ers this year, week one?
I'm going to be really interested to see how our D-line plays, because they lost a lot of weight up the middle. If the 49ers don't have to pass, they're not going to pass. They got a powerful run offense. I think this team's going to fight pretty hard in that game. Week one, you always see more fights out of every team. More fight, not fights, but more fight. I think back to 2017 the Mike Glennon Bears almost defeated the reigning NFC champs in week 1 at home. It's just week 1 is wild stuff happens, and this team I think is going to be well coached, ready to go, chomping at the bit for it. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears win it, especially if Trey Lance is starting the game and, Eberflus can throw some wild stuff at him, but they'll need to stop the run in order to do it. And it'll be interesting to see what they got up the middle to stop it.
Yeah, and it's like if you're not able to stop the run, then that sets Trey Lance up so much easier because then you're going to anticipate, you're going to load the box, and then he's going to drop it over your head. Or even worse, Trey Lance is a mobile guy himself. He's a big guy too, so it's not like he's a simple tackle in the open field. Obviously, he'll try to get out of bounds and slide and such, but I think like what you said makes the most sense where it's like up front we have to be strong because no matter what, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, they're going to run the ball over 30 times, maybe like 35, 40 times. You know what I'm saying? So that's something we can come out and say. I don't know about a 6.5 point line. I will be pounding the Bears money line week 1 because why not? But
I'll be buying up that half point and taking Bears +7 for sure.
Yeah, +7 for sure. Yeah, that's why it comes out this early because honestly, I don't see it staying that high by week 1. They'll drop a couple. You know how they dropped the weekly video of Tua? There will be many of those videos of Justin Fields, and those lines will slowly start to shrink. But I think week 1, very winnable game, and fuck it. Let's go 1-0. We're 1-0 through week 1, but the going gets tough week 2, and in a situation against a team that we don't have the greatest history against as of late, and then 2, you factor in Sunday night primetime game on the road at Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers. Week 2, Ron, start us off. We're without the cheese man. That's who I would start with right now. If we had Joey with us, I'd go cheese man first, but I will go with Ron first instead.
I'm gonna not try and take too much away from Quintin because I love what Quintin said before we jumped on about this, and I want him to say that. But I think if the Bears are going to do it and beat the Packers, it's going to be this week, and it's for every reason that Quintin is going to say here in a second. Because again, like they always have a shot, right? They always have at least one game where they had a shot. They had a shot in Lambeau last year.
Yeah,
I mean that was one of the best offensive games we've seen from the Bears in probably all season last year. We had
31 points at the half, I think.
Yeah, we had the Grant return for a touchdown. We had the Demir Bird take it to the house on a slant out of the backfield. Like that was a fun game offensively, and even though they lost, like they still put up some points and were like kind of sort of in it.
Exciting.
So,
you thought you had a chance, and then Matt Nagy said, "I'm having fun," and then.
Exactly. And then after he starts having fun, actually, this is a perfect time to bring that up because Scott from Iowa dropped in as soon as the show started saying he thinks Bears 11-6. He says, hashtag I said when I said hashtag playoffs, hashtag Nagy is a jagoff. So that's why I felt perfect.
That last one's the most important one.
Yes, that was the most important one. But because Nagy had fun, they lost. I think they can win this game. I think if they're going to beat the Packers, it's going to be this one. And I just want to turn the floor over to Quintin because he spot on the head. Don't want to take away from his thunder.
Yeah. So the reason I said if they're going to win one against the Packers, it's going to be this one is week 2. It's only 1 week of game film on a new offense and new defensive system the Bears will be running. 2 is Luke Getsy. He knows the Packers offense in and out. He knows what they're going to be, what Matt LaFleur is going to be thinking and what their defense coordinator, Joe Barry, is going to be thinking the Bears are doing. He's going to know how to use that against them, hopefully. If he's a smart coach, which time will tell. But he's gonna know how to kind of manipulate the situations to his advantage. And then the third thing, which I didn't say pre-show, but Aaron Rodgers is a whole new wide receiver core. Their chemistry is going to be low. They're not going to be on the same page all game. Late in the season, they will be. But early in the season, you're going to get a chance to get the stops that you need to win a game, and that's kind of something the Bears need to be counting on here if they want to be getting out of Lambeau with a W.
So Quinn, you're telling me you're not scared of Sammy Watkins?
Only when he turns into a lizard.
Okay, that was good. Yeah. I mean, I think I like it too because it's still early enough in the season to where you only have 3 preseason games too, so he's not going to have too much time to get adjusted with his Kmart crew over there that are his receivers. That Green Bay fans are so convinced that is like leaps and bows above the Bears receiving core. Which I'm not saying that we have a great receiving core, but it's like yours is also
We got
very
a guy.
unproven. Yeah, we got a guy. We got a tight end. We got some tight ends. We got some receiver. We got some running backs that can catch it out of the backfield too, which I really like. And I think like this is a backyard bullshit game. Anything must go. Trick plays, good defense, whatever we have to do to come back to Chicago with a win. I'm all there for. Similar to what they had in the first half until Matt had fun last year. Like they're gonna have to score a lot of points no matter what to guarantee a win against the Packers, like probably north of 30. As we saw, 31 was not enough last year, so you keep that in mind. But this is a game where you just got to let it rip because at the end of the day, you have nothing to lose against the Packers.
So I also think I don't know if Fields will stay healthy all year, but I'm pretty damn sure he's going to be 100% for week 2.
Yeah.
And he was not healthy when they played the Packers last year. You know, I mean, he was clearly not right. It was like anyone who watched that game could tell his throw power wasn't the same. His speed wasn't the same. He wasn't all there. They were, you know, everything was on shorter throws really for them. I think he takes that a little personally too. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder in this game. Especially when you think about when he got to Chicago, what he said about he was, you know, all about
and just
playing up the rivalry here.
Think about what he used to do to his old rival. In the first year that he's gone, what happened to his team without him?
Yep.
Makes you think. So he's a rival guy. Those games mean more to him. We'll see what happens when we get out there. But this is where the schedule gets fun, I think. I think this is where the Bears have a real chance to maybe start turning some heads if they can do what we said they'll do in the first 2 weeks. But week 3 at home, the Lovie Smith revenge game against the Houston Texans. We talked about it on the stream. We've talked about it on the podcast. You know, the Texans are in the lower fourth, like not even the lower third. Like they're one of the like 8 worst teams roster-wise in the NFL. And I think anytime you got that type of team and you're the home team, you should be able to take care of business. Obviously, you got the Lovie Smith factor. Yeah, there we go, another beer. Lovie Smith factor. So it might be a little bit tighter than anticipated, but I'm not scared of Davis Mills. Okay, they're not trotting out Deshaun Watson. It'd be a different story if they still had Watson, but
Davis Mills would have been the number 1 pick in this draft.
Yeah, but
had he stayed at Stanford,
but he wasn't. You know what this draft was? You know what this draft was? This was a draft full of dudes that nobody should have went number 1. Like they should have just been able to just trade that pick for a first round pick next year, and then it would just be like, yeah, this is the second pick now. But I think like it's the Texans. Like they're terrible. We're not great, but we're better than the Texans. And like I said, you got them at home. A stinker, like a 21 to like 13, like just stupidly low scoring game with a bunch of defensive stops and turnovers and Davis Mills interceptions, hopefully. But Ron, I'll kick it to you. What does the Lovie Smith revenge game mean to you? Because this, I think, did he get us when he was with Tampa afterwards? I don't think he did. He may have.
I'm not sure, but this will be a game that somehow the Bears find a way to lose because it is the Lovie Smith. Because it is the Lovie Smith revenge game. Like,
God damn it!
Just be honest, it's gonna happen. They should beat them. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. They should beat them. They absolutely should beat Houston. They are a rebuilding franchise, probably more so than the Bears are, and we all know the Bears are a rebuilding franchise. So,
yeah,
I think I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means for either side. Again, I think almost every game the Bears play this year is probably going to be, if they have a chance to win, it's going to be a one-score game.
Yeah.
It's not going to. They might get one game this year where they beat somebody by more than 10 points, maybe.
You know what it's going to be like? It's going to be like the Lions on Thanksgiving last year, where it's like we should have won this game in the second quarter, but instead we're winning it on a game-winning field goal. That's how these wins are going to come this year.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm hoping they beat the Texans. They should beat the Texans. Me just thinks I have a bad feeling about this game already, and that's where my head is, because again, it's the Lovie Smith revenge game, and it's too poetic to not go the Bears way.
Yeah, good point.
So I got a bit of a hot take on this game. So Lovie Smith historically is not allowed to win games that involve the Texans and Bears. The Bears historically are not allowed to win games that involve the Texans and Lovie Smith. This is going to be a tie, boys.
We're pounding that week. I don't care if it's like $5 or $10. We're pounding that.
I'm with you, Rod. I think they're going to find a way to not beat a team that they should beat. I'd say the Titans, yes, but I'm probably going to bet it that week just because I put it in the universe.
16-16, I can see it. Like each team gets a touchdown and then just 3 field goals. But one thing I want to bring up, Ron, I know you remember the Doomsday parlay last year that I did not place. There was an article about it. So the Doomsday parlay was the Jaguars money line. I think it was the Jaguars money line, Steelers money line, Raiders, Chargers tie, and it was like $10 to win $10,000 or something stupid, and
it almost happened.
Yeah, and it almost happened, and the preface of the article was because you probably not that many people bet that, but stuff like that, future events like that. If something were like that in the future were to happen, we're you may not, it's not fixed, but it could possibly happen, and the odds are that high. It's we're going out of business, boys. Get the fuck out of here. But yes, we'll bring it up when we get around to week 3. But as we will never bet against the Bears, but a tie is something that is super sick in the head, and I like the way you think. And we're now 2-0-1, and the 16-0-1 show will resume on the road following week, October 2nd. Travel to the Meadowlands to face the New York Football Giants, another team that not really in a great position roster wise. They did a pretty good job in the draft, I think, but they don't really know what they have in Daniel Jones. And as much as it pains me to say, they paid my guy, Kenny Golladay, $80 million, and he didn't even catch a touchdown last year. Part of that's on their offense, part of that's on Kenny, but they had, any given week you could tune into a Giants game and they wouldn't be in double digits in the second half. They'd have 3, 6, or 9 points. They were a field goal machine. Love me some Graham Gano in fantasy, but that's about it. They don't do shit on offense. Saquon hasn't been healthy, and I can't expect too much out of the New York Giants. But, again, such a Bears game to lose. So, Ron, I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, but they beat this team last year, and I don't see this Giants team being that drastically different.
They beat the shit out of them last year, too.
So I have a good feeling about this one. I think this is a game the Bears should win, and I think they will win. I just want to know is how many shots on Justin Fields does Thibodeau get if the offensive line isn't playing well this early in the season?
It's a nasty D-line.
They got some.
He doesn't love football, so we'll see how many plays he plays.
Hey, that's okay, but he might like kicking the shit out of another human being, and if he does, he's going to take every opportunity he can to take a run at Fields. And like Quintin said, that's probably the one big thing that the Giants did was they got better in the trenches on both sides of the ball. They drafted offensive line. They're trying to build up around Danny Dimes, and whether Daniel Jones is the answer or not, you still got to build. You can't build a house without the foundation, and that's where they built this offseason. That's where they built in the draft. So that's going to be an interesting game. I don't think it's going to be as big of a blowout as it was last year, but I think this is still a game that the Bears should win. Just please pray to God that Kayvon Thibodeau does not get a free run at Justin Fields and just puts him 6 feet into the ground, because that is in the Meadowlands, and they will take every opportunity to bury Justin Fields in the front lawn over there in New Jersey.
I just hope I don't get flashbacks to the 2010 Jay Cutler game in the Meadowlands where he took 9 sacks in the first half or something like that.
Yeah, I think he set a record.
Yeah,
we don't have a good history with our quarterbacks up there.
No, I generally agree with Ron. I think talent wise, these teams are probably pretty similar, but the Bears I think have an edge at quarterback.
More Jimmys than Joes.
We'll find out about that. But
Joes.
I do have a bad feeling about this game, though. Just something in my gut.
Yeah,
the Bears have been beating up on the Giants for 3 or 4 straight years now. Like, just we've been whooping up on them.
Last 3 or 4 meetings.
Since they upset us in 2018, I think we've played them every year and we've beaten up on them pretty good. Especially last year when Mike Glennon was in there. I think they might have some bad blood.
Yeah, they might be due. They might be due.
Yeah. So, especially the Bears ran the score up a little bit last year too. Which, I liked it because my number one rule of sports gambling is bet against Mike Glennon. Yeah. So, I was all for running it up because it covered. But it's
well, that's the thing, dude. How many times did you bet the Bears last year where you're just like, well, this is probably not a good bet, but I'm going to do it anyways, and it just doesn't hit me. You're like,
just about every single week.
Yeah. No. But that week, it was by the second quarter, you're like, I have won a bet, and it was on my team. So it's a double whammy, baby.
It was like, we're back.
Yeah, the Bears are back. Get your Super Bowl future. I know we're eliminated from playoff contention. I don't care. Give me the Super Bowl future. But, Giants, like you said, talent-wise and just the history over the last few years, it could be one of those games that could maybe be a little bit closer than anticipated, but I think we have enough to get us over the line and get the win against them as well. But I don't know. The Vikings on the road. This is you're probably going to split with the Vikings every year, or at least in the current state that both teams are. But I think this is the first real test of the secondary for our young corners, because you got Thielen, you got Jefferson, you got Kirk Cookie Cutter Cousins, who isn't the best quarterback, but with those 2 receivers has had a history of he's either going to throw for 91 yards or he's going to throw for 391 yards. And you don't know what game you're going to get from him until you get in the game. So I think, you have a couple weeks to build up some steam, to build some momentum as, who's the best receiver that they're going to see in the first 4 weeks of the season, maybe Galladay or Brandon Cooks. That's not the quality of Justin Jefferson or Thielen, So this is going to be that first real test for them, but I think ultimately the Vikings, they get this one at home, as much as I hate to say it. I'm sure come, the week of the game, I'll change my mind, but just look ahead at the schedule. It's one of those games where you think the Vikings will probably put up 28 on us, maybe close to 31. So I don't know if we can match it.
Yeah, I am just ready to hear every single time the Vikings do anything good in that game, because it is in Minnesota. But I agree with you. I think that's going to be
the game last year, too, was fucking terrible.
Brutal. Was there. Got to witness it in person. Thankfully, I had a couple cold ones to numb the pain a little bit by the third quarter. But, I'm right there with you, Bdon. I think this is a game, unfortunately, they lose. It is in Minnesota's building. That's going to help. I think the only saving grace they might have is the fact that, again, kind of the same point with the Packers, is there's not a lot of film out there. Maybe you get a chance and somehow win it. And if I remember correctly, Janeco, right, is his name? Quarterback's coach now for the Bears, coming from Minnesota. So maybe they get a little insight. Maybe it's the Luke Getsy effect, but with the Minnesota Vikings. I agree, though, if they're going to split with the Vikings this year, Minnesota's going to get the one at home. I just hope Justin Jefferson doesn't gritty his way to the end zone like 12 times in that game and absolutely embarrass Kyler Gordon and company.
Well, I think the one game at home they kept him out of the end zone, right?
They did. There. It was very cool.
I like that.
I think this one's going to be a great case study. Is Kirk Cousins, are the Bears in Kirk Cousins' head because he grew up a Bears fan, or were Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack in Kirk Cousins' head? This is going to be the first game in a while that we've seen Kirk Cousins against the Bears without those two, and he has not done well against the Bears. You can't look at his career stats against the Bears versus career stats versus other teams and say this is the same quarterback. So it'll be interesting to me to see that, because he did grow up a Bears fan, and they might be in his head from that, or it might have just been the beating he took from Mack and Hicks. I'm interested to see that. I think the Bears can keep this one close. I honestly think the Vikings are being overhyped. I don't think they're like they have some really good receivers, but outside of
Dalvin Cook.
If it's the same Kirk Cousins that we've seen against the Bears last year, I'm not that worried about him. And yeah, Dalvin Cook. I don't know. I just have a hard time being. Maybe I'm just like delusional because of how good the Bears' run defense used to be. But Dalvin Cook, I've never seen him do that much damage against the Bears. Even when he got into good numbers, it didn't feel like he dominated the game. So yeah, and I don't think their defense is all that good. Danielle Hunter's a problem. Za'Darius Smith could be a problem, depending on how he is next year. He barely played last year. But aside from those two, like the interior, their D-line is nothing that you're that scared of. You could run on these guys, I think. And you can set up a lot with it. Plus like you said, the Janoko factor with it. Like, I feel like the Bears can be right there in this game. But being in Minnesota, I would lean Minnesota.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, we don't make it home with a dub from Minnesota. But it gets easier after that. Short turnaround, Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime game against a team that has a new name. I said it's an XFL import in the Washington Commanders. Carson Wentz show arrives on a Thursday night in Chicago. This is going to be one of the worst primetime games of the entire season. I'm just going to go out and say it. It's two transition franchises right now. Two of those purgatory teams that they're not terrible teams, but they're not really good teams. So this game, anything goes. I think ultimately we should be able to have enough of a pass rush to get up after Carson Wentz and find a way to, make things tough on him. They have good playmakers in McLaurin and Gibson and, whoever the heck's toting the rock, because they like to switch it up in the backfield. But their defense took a significant step back, and I think this is a good opportunity at home to run it up on a team to get some points.
Yeah. I honestly can't tell you a whole lot about their defense aside from the Alabama D-line that they have, which is really good. Their D-line is very, very good. And as a Bears fan, honestly, I'm worried about that in this game. Their D-line could win this game for them, straight up, as long as Carson Wentz doesn't throw it away while they're winning it, which is where I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Q. I'm also very hopeful there. This is the game that, if Gordon and Brisker haven't gotten an interception yet in the season, this is the one where it happens.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz, if the Bears D-line gets any level of pressure on Carson Wentz, it's going to be an ugly game. I agree with Bdon. It's probably going to be the most disgusting primetime game of the season, just as it stands right now. But I am hopeful. I am hopeful that the Bears can beat the XFL Washington Commanders at Soldier Field on the Thursday night. And maybe, just maybe we get a pick six. I'm going to call it right now, and I'm going to go on record. I want a Jaquan Brisker pick six. I feel like that would be sick. It'd be a great way for him to have a coming out party against a team that, again, Carson Wentz is your quarterback. And can we just remember that he was the second overall pick? That's really funny. He had an MVP year, he got hurt, and then he was just never the same quarterback.
He almost won an MVP and got a Super Bowl ring, though.
Yeah, wild. Wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
Roller
Football's a
coaster.
weird sport.
Roller coaster of a career for the young man, Carson Wentz, the young 32-year-old. But yeah.
Is he 32?
No, but in my head, he's 32. He basically is. He's probably like 28. But the next game on the schedule. So obviously, with the Thursday night game, you get a nice, layover. They don't play again until October 24th against the New England Patriots at New England. And Patriots, they went on a run last year. They were a playoff team. They weren't great in the playoffs. They got shit pumped by the Bills, but I don't know. The Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL, so I don't hold that against the Patriots. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, a game where both teams are probably going to run the shit out of the football. Mac Jones may get more opportunities to prove what he can do in the passing game this year, but he didn't show too much to New England, to Belichick and all them last year. So I'd be surprised to see what type of game this is, but they could have a chance to win this one. But I think ultimately New England has a little bit more of a talented team than us.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is Monday Night Football, isn't it? I believe it is.
Monday Night Football at the Patriots.
Monday night in Foxborough. Patriots O-line they're hogs, man. They got a good O-line. They're going to dictate this game, I think. The receivers, I was just pulling some info on them today for a podcast episode, and they added Devontae Parker. They added the kid out of Baylor in the draft for more speed. They got receivers. They got an O-line. They got a stable of running backs. And they got a Bill Belichick-led defense. I think the Patriots are going to control this game from start to finish. It might feel closer than it ever is, but I think the Patriots are just going to win this in a game that looks pretty easy on the scoreboard, but the Bears fight. That's kind of where I see it.
Yeah. I'll keep it real quick and real short, Bdon, so you can analyze this one. I might be starting work a little later on Tuesday morning because I'm just going to need a drink away the pain of watching the Patriots shit pump the Bears on Monday Night Football. So that's where my head's going to be at because I agree. I think the Patriots are going to just control this game, and they quite honestly might win by 17 or more points if it goes in their favor.
Yeah, it's Monday Night Football.
They're at home, and it's prime time. That's just where the Patriots come to play. It's where Bill Belichick is always ready for the bright lights in the big city of prime time, and it just I don't like this matchup.
If there's a saving grace, it's that I think Justin Fields is a big primetime guy.
Yes.
That's the only hope in this game, that Justin Fields can just start going, play for play with the Patriots. And I mean, we'll see if he can do that. He did against the Steelers last year, but I don't know if he can keep doing it.
Bill Belichick's got to be out of his prime. He's on his way down. He's on his way out. So maybe we can sneak one over on him.
Yeah.
Next game, another road game, another quality opponent. Dallas Cowboys down at Jerry's World, Sunday, October 30th. Weird team to play at their place. I feel like they always win at home. They're a very good home team. They're a pretty damn good team. They're not good in the playoffs, but they'll beat the shit out of you in the regular season. They like to put up points. They have weapons on offense. You lose a guy like Amari Cooper, but I still think they have enough in that receiver room. And then, I'm not going to say Zeke's an elite back anymore, but the combination
Tony Pollard might be.
The combination of Zeke and Tony Pollard, and then Dak when he runs is a pretty damn good running game, and I think they're pretty solid on the defensive side of the ball. So tough game. I don't think that the Bears, as currently constructed, win this game, but I think it still has the chance to be an exciting game and a close game. I don't think, we're going to get absolutely shit pumped, but I think Cowboys just got a little bit more than us.
Welcome to the Dallas Cowboys trap game, folks. I think the Bears do win this one because I just don't think the Cowboys are going to be ready for Chicago. They're going to overlook them, and I got to look at Dallas's schedule because I'll tell you what, if Dallas has a big NFC East matchup in week 9 or a big just primetime opponent or something, and I'm going to do a little research here in a second, but if that's the case, they're going to overlook the Bears. And you don't think Matt Eberflus, who was a positional coach down in Dallas, would love to get a dub in his first season in Jerry World? I think this is a game that if the Bears are going to have one quote-unquote marquee win where they're total underdogs and nobody expects them to win, it's going to be this one against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I'm a bit on the same lines as you with thoughts on this one, Ron. The Cowboys every year have a few games, again, at home, where they're just a little complacent, overlook teams, and let them hang around for way too long. I'm not sold that the Bears are going to pull it out, but this is going to be one of those games where it's like America's game of the week, and you're only paying half attention, and you look up at 6 p.m. and the Bears are up by 3, and there's 2 minutes left, and you're saying, what is going on? How did this happen? Like, I like the Cowboys might pull out a last-minute victory there, but I think this is going to be a hard-fought game, especially with the Eberflus factor, with the ties to Dallas. And dare I say, this might be Mike McCarthy's swan song.
Love that.
Hey, this might be one of the moments that does them in.
Just adding to the fire here, boys, real quick. Just looked up their schedule, so they are on bye. It looks like the week after. Then they have the Packers in prime time, 3:25.
Yeah, they get smoked by the Pack
week after. So this very well could be a game they overlook to get to that bye week, and I totally still stand by what I said.
Yeah, they usually get smoked by the Packers, so could overlook us. But I think prior to this game, we're going to have to get some pregame lines on the Gene Short Jordan combo that we'll see in the crowd, because it's undefeated. The
Dallas Cowboys starter pack.
Yeah, it's usually like a bald guy, but every single time it's always just like the jean shorts galore. So I always love that about the crowd shots when we're in Dallas. But moving on, instead of jean shorts, probably those little inseam shorts, the little boxer brief length ones. But instead of going to Miami, the Dolphins come to see us at home, and I'm gonna go out and say it. Tua Tagovailoa is not a good quarterback. The Bears win this game at home. It's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be like a 17-13 game. Like, both teams aren't great on offense. Both teams have pretty good defenses, or at least, middle of the pack defenses that every now and then have that great game. But like, Tua does not scare me. Yeah, they got Tyreek Hill, so what? Like, you just have to box him in, because that deep stuff, they can practice it as much as they want. Tua Tagovailoa is not that guy. And, I mean, I don't even know who their backup is anymore. Probably better than Tua, but either way you look at it, like, I think the Bears squeak out an ugly win at home against a team with a similar roster to them, I guess, if you will, aside from the fact that we don't have a Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, we do have a Tyreek Hill. His name is Velus Jones Jr. But I did want to ask how the over-under of 2.5 of Tyreek Hill peace signs that he throws up to the Bears defense in this game, because I know Tua's not that guy to throw it deep, but Tyreek's a guy that all you got to do is get the ball in his hands and he can take it the distance. So I'm intrigued to see. I absolutely think this is a winnable game for the Bears, because I agree. I think Miami is going to be the team that quote-unquote won the offseason and then kind of falls flat on their face come the regular season. But it'll be close. This is definitely a game that can go either way for the Bears. But I think them being at home and not having to deal with that Miami heat in November is going to be helpful for them. And maybe, just maybe, they somehow find a way to keep Tyreek Hill under control and maybe squeak out a win at Soldier Field.
Yeah. I think the weather's going to play a factor here. I mean, the average high for this day, I was looking it up the other day, is 45 degrees. Like, it's not cold necessarily, but it's not Miami. Who's
their coach now, too? Who's their head coach?
And Mike McDaniels. This will be about the time where teams are figuring out on film how to take out Mike McDaniels' offense, and we're going to see if he can adjust or not.
I have the perfect plan.
And what is it?
We just drop off a bunch of edibles to the team hotel. He just oversleeps the team bus to get to the game the next day. Like, do you think Mike McDaniel's going to turn down a bunch of edibles?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So, like, the type of defense the Bears are going to be running under Eberflus is built for quarterbacks like Tua. Like that this just plays right into their bread and butter. But the thing that can get in the way of that is Tyreek Hill having a 2005 divisional round Steve Smith type game.
Don't you say that.
Don't bring back that pain that I didn't need to relive.
I'm sorry. I had to. Because you think about it, Delhomme was a similar style quarterback. He didn't have a big arm. He wasn't going deep, but like Hill was just there, or not Hill, Smith was just there. You know, it just,
all 5'9" of them.
Hit guys. He could throw all the ducks up he wanted because Steve Smith. You know, that's the only way that I don't think the Bears win this game.
I got one for you. Jake Delhomme played in more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers, or at least the same amount, right? Because Rodgers only played. Was he played in one, or was he played in two?
One.
Yeah.
I don't think Rodgers ever lost a Super Bowl, and he's only won one. So. Yeah.
So Jake Delhomme, 2-time Super Bowl appearance guy.
Hey, Rex Grossman's tied with him too.
Yeah, Rex Goatsman. But yeah, I think Bears got enough to beat the Dolphins at home. Like you said, November 6th, middle of the season, 2 as a shitbox. We're going to win this game.
This is around when Teron Armstead goes down every year too. So.
Oh my God, you're terrible. All right. So the week after this, I think this is a game that everyone circles on their calendar, you know, every year. The Detroit Lions at home. Now, it's a little bit different this year. I think, look what the Lions did in the draft, bringing guys like Jameson Williams, bringing guys like Aiden Hutchinson. They brought in a lot of talent this year in the draft, and Dan Campbell is a culture guy. And, I mean, it may not mean much to, like, the average listener, but, like, you know, they were, like, the second best team against the spread last year. Like, every single week, people thought they were going to get shit pumped, and every single week, they were firing until the last whistle. And I think, like, that's a team that no matter what, you're going to get their best shot week in and week out because they're in that young coach, young team, we can accomplish anything. And those are the most dangerous teams. I think I'm not going to compare them to the Bengals because I don't think they'll have near the success the Bengals did last year. But I think, like, if you look at a team like the Bengals last year, that's what I kind of think, like, the Lions will want to try to emulate. But we're Big Brother. We beat them every year. We're going to beat them at home. We're going to beat them on the road again. And this just happens to be the first one that falls on the schedule. Someone in Lions Twitter is going to come back and clip me too if we lose this game.
Absolutely.
So that's great. But
death taxes the Lions know how to cover on the spread. That's going to happen. I think the Lions will cover on the spread. I think the Lions team is going to be much better than they have been in years past. That still being said, I agree. I think this is a game the Bears should still win. I don't believe in Jared Goff. I think that's a large part of it. Yes, Detroit is building. Yes, they are getting better, but I think we get at least one more year where we can circle the 2 Detroit Lion games and say we confidently those are wins for the Bears. So I'm going to go ahead and still ride that idea and that it will be a Bears victory. But the Lions will cover because, like I said, death taxes and the Lions always cover on the spread.
And that's even if it's a +1.5. I'm talking 17-16 real shit boxery, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, for this is the home game, right?
Yeah, that's the home game.
Against
the
Lions. I'm not even worried about the Lions cover, and I think Eberflus and his defense are going to eat Jared Goff's lunch.
Yeah.
I think the Bears are going to roll this game. The other one, I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, no, that's the one that we should.
I feel pretty good about
because that's probably Thanksgiving. That's usually always Thanksgiving.
No, not this year.
Thank God we don't have Thanksgiving this year. All right, sweet. No Thanksgiving game. Next, after the Lions, the chicken wing team themselves, the Atlanta Falcons. Wings. Maybe the guys will stop over at Magic City after they beat the team. They beat the Falcons, but I think Falcons, Marcus Mariota, what are the Falcons going to be this year? Who knows? Maybe they'll be good. Maybe not. Probably not. I don't know why I said maybe. Probably not. But the Falcons have good young playmakers in Kyle Pitts and in Drake London, and if they get it across the 50, they're at least getting 3. So a game that we should win, but historically, there is no game the Bears should win because the Bears always lose those games or at least underperform in those games where we're like, yeah, I feel really confident going into this game that no matter what happens, we'll come away with the victory.
My favorite Bears Falcons memory is Big Dick Nick coming in with the visor and willing the Bears back to victory. But I'll tell you what I do love here is the Bears can't get distracted. They can't be thinking about the Chick-fil-A that's served in the stadium because unfortunately it's closed on Sundays. So, and honestly, I'm not afraid of Kyle Pitts. You know why I'm not afraid of Kyle Pitts? Because Jaquan Brisker is a Chicago Bear. This guy feels like he is. I'm super hyped about Jaquan Brisker. I honestly think the Brisker-Eddie Jackson tandem could be one of the best safety tandems in all of football. And if Brisker gets the assignment of you are to shut down Kyle Pitts over the top and Roquan Smith gets him down underneath, Kyle Pitts ain't doing shit against the Bears defense. It's going to have It's going to have to be a guy like, a Drake London, or it's going to have to be the run game that beats the Bears in this game. The Falcons might be in more of a weird area of purgatory than even the Bears are right now. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk this up as a dub for the Bears.
The Dirty Birds have the upper hand. The Birds have the upper hand, man. They got all the intel on the Bears. There's too much familiarity.
That's right.
There's too much familiarity.
Stop it now.
Ryan Pace is going to be going around to his linebackers telling them, hey, you tickle David Montgomery's armpit, he's going to fumble. He knows everything. He knows the Bears roster. He knows like half the Falcons roster knows everyone on the Bears roster, or at least half of the Bears roster. Like there's too much familiarity here. Yeah, this is a Bears South, and that worries me. These guys know the Bears players way too well, and that really worries me. And like their coaching staff, their front office, they all like trap game.
Listen, bro.
I'm worried about this one.
Marcus Mariota is not a state. We're not going to lose to Marcus Mariota.
I don't agree with you.
He's going to catch his own touchdown pass again.
Yeah. I swear to God. All right, so I'm dying. Fucking Falcons, dude. You know what they got to do? They just got to have the Falcons with a lead late, and then they just cut to Arthur Blank on the sideline, and then
there you go. And then we just got to make that happen.
Nothing else before that matters. And then Justin Fields is from Atlanta. Come on.
That's
now.
True. You're right.
Justin Fields is from Atlanta. He is not losing this game. No shot.
He's a huge Falcon. He grew up a huge Falcons fan.
Yep.
And
he's going to want to beat him.
They drafted a tight end instead of him. That's a great point. I like that angle.
This is 350 and 4 tutters for Justin.
I like that angle. I like that angle better than mine. I'm still a little worried.
I'm maxing out every single line on Justin Fields that day.
Your angle gives me PTSD, Quintin.
I'm full of them tonight.
So following, all right. So I haven't been saying the week. So after week 11 against the Falcons, we go week 12 at the New York. So we go to the Meadowlands twice. So the Meadowlands don't kill a bunch of ankles or cause a bunch of injuries the first time around. Expect to see some injuries here the second time around. The Meadowlands is like it is known that this is the shittiest field to play a football game on in the NFL. And we have 2 games on the field this year. Don't like that. The Jets, people are like pounding their 5.5 win total like it's like it's the golden ticket from Willy Wonka, and it's like it's the Jets, bro. It's literally the Jets. And frisky defense, don't know what you're going to get on offense. Terrible offensive line. We're not able to protect Zach Wilson last year. I had a couple creative players in Mike White and whoever the hell else, Josh Johnson, come in and do some things. But
Mike White's a legend.
Oh, yeah. The Mike White game. Where were you for the Mike White game? But, yeah, talent differentiation, however the heck you want to say it. We're a better team than the Jets. I think we steal 2 games at the Meadowlands. We beat the Giants and the Jets at their home field. So I don't think this, as much as you guys will want to say this may be a trap game, nah. we'll beat the Jets. We'll take care of business against them.
I think it just comes down to what Zach Wilson does as a second-year quarterback. Does he really take that next step forward and actually utilize the weapons that they've tried to put around him? Elijah Moore's an incredibly good receiver. They've loaded up at various positions offensively to give him more help. Does that make a difference, though? That's going to really be the key here. And it'll be late enough in the year where we kind of know what this Jets team is. Are they the shitbag Jets that we're so accustomed to of recent years? Or are they the Jets, under Rex Ryan that wanted to go get a goddamn snack and go to the playoffs every year somehow? So it's really going to be a tale of two teams, I think, right now. And it really, to me, comes down to what Zach Wilson does as a second-year quarterback. That's going to, honestly, to me, be the most fun thing about this year, because you look at, the rookie class, Kenny Pickett's probably the only one that's actually getting playing time this year at any capacity. And I hope not, because I want Mitch to fucking ball out because we love Mitch. But realistically, it's going to be more analysis on the second year quarterbacks from last year's draft than it is, I think, going to be on the analysis of the rookie quarterbacks this year. So it is going to be the Justin Fields, the Trey Lance, who we see in week one, the Zach Wilsons, who we're now going to see in this game. It's really going to come down to that. So does Zach Wilson become what they thought Zach Wilson was going to be as the number 2 overall pick? Or, like you said, do the Bears sneak into Meadowlands and steal 2 games and steal the Jets lunch in, week 12 before they have to come back home and deal with the fucking cheeseheads again?
I have a fun content idea for the Jets next season, not to make it Jets on tap, but the Jets are usually 10-point underdogs, and they usually get 1 or 2 wins a season on those games. Let's pick 3 weeks next season to just pound the Jets money line and just be Jets guys.
Just screaming at your television.
Okay, not like obliterate it, like a little sprinkle. A little sprinkle on the Jets.
A little sprinkle.
But not this week. It ain't happening this week.
So for this game, let's take a step back in time to 2016, 2017, something around there. You got the 2 best high school quarterbacks in the country, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. Fast forward a few years in college, in the college football playoff, the 2 straight years, it's the Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields story. Fast forward to the 2020 NFL draft, all of a sudden, this kid from Salt Lake City has surpassed Justin Fields somehow that no one really understands. And then he goes number 2 overall. Fields falls down the draft board. And I think he remembers that. I think he remembers how much that money that cost him in per game checks. I think he remembers how he's standing at the combine at pro days watching Zach Wilson's pro day and saying, I did all that better. I think Fields is going to go off this game.
Yes. Get me hyped about that. Bdon, you're on mute, bud.
My bad. I was looking at the schedule. And it's back-to-back from the Falcons game. We could see 750 to 800 yards in back-to-back, or not in back-to-back weeks, but combined through these 2 weeks, just an absolute stellar
I think these 2 games is Justin Fields John Wick? Did somebody kill his dog? I don't know. But he sure looks like it.
Absolutely. All right, so after the Jets, you get the Packers at home, December 4th. I don't know. One thing that I will say that I haven't mentioned yet, it's week 13, and we have not had our bye week. So I think although I like us in week 2 against the Packers early in the season, no chemistry, I think the Packers will have a better chance at beating us in this game than in the first one.
Aaron Rodgers is telling the Soldier Field faithful that he owns them again in this one. That's all I have to say about it. They're not going to win this game.
Wide receiver chemistry will be there by then. I mean, I think the Bears will be getting a reality check here. They've had a soft spot of the schedule, and this is a chance for them to say, can we hang with the big boys? And I think the Packers are gonna bring them back to reality, unfortunately.
Shit.
Matt LaFleur is a midget, so. But all right, so now that I mentioned it, after week 13, they get their bye week, week 14, the week of December 11th, and it goes into the final home stretch of the season. We have 4 games left. First one, December 18th, against the Philadelphia Eagles at home. And Eagles were a playoff team last year, gritty team. Jalen Hurts, this is that year where Philadelphia is really going to try and find out if Jalen Hurts is that guy. I think this is going to be a tough game. I think we could win this game, but I would also not be very surprised if we lost to the Eagles.
Football gods, please, for the love of God, keep Jordan Davis off of Justin Fields. That's all I'm praying for, because former Georgia teammates, they were together when I think Fields was a freshman. I don't know if Davis is a junior or a senior, but they may have crossed paths there. Nonetheless, we don't need any bulldog on bulldog crime in any capacity here. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. I really think this is going to be a very competitive and exciting game. I think the Eagles squeak it out, but it's going to be close. It's going to be 3, maybe 4 points. I mean, it's going to be a close game. I don't think that either team wins by more than a touchdown here.
Yeah, I think Eberflus is going to be a guy who is putting in some real good strategy throughout a bye week, really getting his guys ready. But I think the Eagles' strengths are right where some of the Bears' weaknesses are. Yeah. And I think that's going to be tough to overcome. I think it's close all game. I think the Bears do everything they can, but I don't think they can pull it out.
Yeah, and I hate saying that because the Eagles are a shitbox team, but they are getting better. So we'll give them
Birds
that.
Continue to have the upper hand.
This one, Saturday football. So the Bears have now, they got a Sunday night game, they got a Thursday game, even though it's not Thanksgiving, they got a Saturday game, and they got Monday night. But this game, when you pull up your phone on that, specific Saturday and look at the matchups for the day, I want to say the Bears will have a less than 10% chance on ESPN FPI to win this game. The Buffalo Bills.
This is the Christmas Eve miracle game?
Yeah, we're going to get absolutely shit-punched, dude. Like, the Bills, I mean, they're good for one clunker a year, but that's usually an in-division clunker against, the Titans, the Jaguars, or the Colts. So we'll see what happens. Or not. No, that's not the division. They're in the fucking AFC.
The Dolphins, the Patriots, or the Jets.
Last year, it just happened to be against the Jaguars. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, last year they lost to the Jaguars in a weird game. But yeah, Josh Allen, I can just see him doing crazy things. Like, this is going to be a big test for our secondary because the Bills, while they're not as top heavy as a team like the Vikings, you saw with a guy like Gabriel Davis who popped off the 4-touchdown game in the playoffs. Like, they have and anybody can get it done on any given Sunday mentality. And I think that'll be a very tough game for the secondary and a very tough game for the linebackers too, because I mean, you see Josh Allen get helicoptered weekly. Like, this dude runs like a running back. He doesn't run like how a quarterback runs. So as much as I'm going to get up for the letdown on this game, like, the Bears really don't have a realistic shot at winning this game unless, Brian Hoyer or whoever the heck their backup is playing at that time. I don't even know who their backup is. I just threw out a guy from the random fraternity of backup quarterbacks. But, yeah, I don't see them beating the Bills.
All I want for Christmas is not get beat by 28 or more points. That's where I'm at in this game. I'd be shocked if the Bears win. Really, I think the only way the Bears win this game is if the Buffalo Bills have major injuries at major positions. Otherwise, the Bills are just such a complete team. Again, they're in the conversation to be in the Super Bowl, not where the Bears are as a.
I think they're the favorites. The favorites for the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen arguably is a favorite for MVP this year. So it's going to get ugly, and of course it's on Christmas, and it's going to damper my Christmas mood a little bit. But again, all I want for Christmas is not lose by more than 28 points.
Yeah.
So I'm going to preface this with I am not optimistic about this game. But last November, the Colts went into Buffalo and beat them 41-15.
I do.
Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions. 60% completion, only 200 yards. Let's see, 1 sack, And any fumbles here?
So you're saying that
I don't see any fumbles.
You're saying there's a chance.
Onto something.
Fumble. So, like, Eberflus gave him a hard time last year. I don't know if the Bears defense will be able to stop Buffalo's offense. I don't know if vice versa, if their offense will be able to score against Buffalo's defense, but Eberflus gave him a hard time last year. So it's something to watch at least. Let's hope they can give us a game on Christmas Eve.
Then you go to the second to last week of the season, a game that we already prefaced before. You go to Ford Field. You go to the Mecca of the Mac. You go to downtown Detroit, Motor City. Go play the Detroit Lions in probably a game that means nothing at this point in the season for either team. Like, if we're being realistic, just a bragging rights game, a draft pick position game, but a game. And actually, I take that back. It'll mean something to the players on the field because we're at that point where it's like nobody's job should be safe. If you had a shit season and you're not putting your best foot forward in these last few games, out of there. But probably a little bit closer. The Lions always play us tough at home, always make us earn it a little bit more. But I'm going to go back to something that Ron said a little bit earlier. I am not scared of Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not great. I've seen Jared Goff for the last 5+ years of my life, and nothing that he does scares me on a football field. I think a lot of his success was a beneficiary of the offense that he was in and the receivers that he had in LA. So that's me with my Jared Goff minute, but I think the Bears are able to squeak out probably like a game-winning field goal or a game-winning late drive to win this game against the Lions.
What better way to ring in the new year than with a second win over the Lions and just keep it moving? That's all I've got. Let's just keep it nice and easy. 2 dubs in the season. The one team you can guarantee in the NFC North the Bears can beat up on.
This game's generally a coin toss to me. I mean, I think the Lions are going to be fighting. It's just a question if the Bears are healthy enough to have their best fighters on the field still. And, I'm a coin toss on this game. It's tough to win without kneecaps.
Oh, my God. The kneecaps never get a shot. Okay, so last and final game of the season. Week 18, January 8th, against the Minnetonka, Minnesota Vikings. You got them at home. Let's go out and win a football game in the last week of the season. Why not? Ron will be there. I'm just kidding.
Not January in Chicago, maybe. Yeah. If it was up in Minnesota, maybe, but not in Chicago.
Okay, I take that back.
And we're over here wondering why everyone has a dome.
See, all right, so I'll say this.
Big fan.
This is a game that, again, probably won't mean much. We're probably not going to be fighting for a playoff spot, but I mean, look at how we played the Vikings down the stretch last year. I think we were up like 14-7 or 14-10 at the half. Like, it was very similar to the Packers game where it's like you could see the path to how we win this football game because they laid the bricks on that path so nicely in the first half. But part of the Bears' problem over the last few years is playing the full 4 quarters of football. And I think what better week than the final week of the season to build momentum for that next season, the season that Quintin has dubbed, 2023 is the season that we should arrive and should be back in the playoffs, than to go out with a victory against a division opponent that has given you trouble. And, you usually split with. Sometimes we lose both of the games, too. Nagy was pretty good against the Vikings, but I think, talent-wise, they have more than us, and it could be a tough game, but I think it's a game that you got to have in the last week of the season.
Just remember, Ryan Poles wanted to be in Chicago more than he wanted to be in Minnesota.
And Jim Harbaugh went back to Michigan too.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think a split is always the goal with a team like the Vikings. If you can't beat them in week 5 in their own building, you hope to get the win here just to close out the season on a high note in Eberflus's first year.
I feel like Eberflus is going to be a guy who puts a lot of value on how his team finishes the year. I think the Bears players are going to be putting their all out there. I don't know much about Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings' new coach. He's kind of pretty understated guy. You know, just he shook Sean McVay's hand once, and boom, he's a head coach. And I don't know that he's going to have that same type of mentality or that kind of drive to his players of we finish, we carry this into the offseason, we carry it into the program, into OTAs, and we start next year on the right foot. I think Eberflus is going to be heavy on that, and I think that they'll win this game because of it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no Viking horn. Justin Jefferson is going to be cold, and Adam Thielen's going to be cold, and the ball's not going to fly around how it would, if that game was indoors. But some other news for the Bears. One of the only show notes I have is the Mr. 5 interceptions in the first half of a football game has been signed to a contract to the Chicago Bears. And if you don't know who that is, his name is Nathan Peterman. He went to Pitt. John Gruden's favorite, modern day quarterback, and maybe that's why John Gruden's not a coach in the NFL. I'm just kidding, but he kept giving this guy shots, and I think because Gruden gave him that respect, I think somehow he got into what I just referred to 10 minutes ago is that backup quarterback fraternity where it's these guys somehow keep getting jobs, and I do not want to see any scenario where this guy ends up playing meaningful snaps for this football team. I'm sorry.
He can help because he got the shots from Gruden. He can help a quarterback learn that Shanahan-style West Coast offense better than most other guys because he's been in it for multiple years. Gruden and Shanahan go back. Their offenses are pretty similar. Same with Reed. I mean, they all branch off a little differently. Reed, Gruden, Shanahan all have ties together from the West Coast offense that they just kind of took their separate ways. But Gruden's is more similar to Shanahan than Reed. And so those similarities will be kind of a teaching thing. I'm sure from Peterman in the film room, helping him see stuff and recognize reads. I wouldn't expect Peterman to make this roster. He's a camp body. He's throwing to guys right now. He's there because he can throw. And because he can throw to the right spot. Well, can he throw? I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, but you said he's throwing to guys, but is he throwing to the right guys?
He's a warm body at this point in the quarterback room.
He's a warm body who knows the concepts.
Well, a concept idea for our Madden players. I don't see a lot in the chat yet, but Nathan Peterman franchise. Why not? Why not us? Go win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you could put Justin Fields out at wide receiver and really kick ass.
Oh my God, I'd run a dual quarterback system where I would just have Justin Fields in the slot. I'd move him around. I'd put him in the backfield, and then you just tap down on the button, and then all the receiver icons appear, and then it's boop, Justin Fields over the top. So, you guys have any final thoughts? Schedule, Nathan Peterman, anything from the last few weeks of the Bears?
I'm gonna enjoy the summer, boys. I always do. Summer's a great time of the year, but there is nothing like football season, and the schedule release is just kind of that little tickle and taste for us here in March, in May, to just get us through the summer, and then before we know it, dude, we'll be talking about training camp and preseason games here in just a few months. So the first step in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be overanalyzing every step of this schedule here pretty soon and just diving into all this stuff that I don't need to be, but that's how I'll fill my time. The Bears got a real nice schedule this year. They really did. If Eberflus can really build a culture this year and Justin Fields does take a step, you could see him do some stuff. Those are two big ifs. I wouldn't say those are expectations as much as far away possibilities, but it's something that I can get excited about. It's something that I think they can have a shot to do well this year, even if it's a small shot, just because this schedule is very nice. And it's nice to have an easy schedule for the first time in a few years.
No, yeah, we'll
see how it goes.
Violently assaulting over 6.5 wins. So that might be the Calvin Ridley lead pipe lock of the season. So we'll see how that works out. But does anybody else have any final thoughts?
Negative
Hey.
Ghost Rider.
This was the 17-0 show presented to you by Bears on Tap, brought to you by On Tap Sportsnet. I'm your host, Brandon Suarez. You can follow me on Twitter at Bdon300. You can follow my co-host, Ron Luce, at Luce on Tap, and you can follow Quintin at ButtKissStats. We are Bears on Tap. We'll be back with you guys next Monday to discuss another week of Bears news. As we said, Monday is going to be our off-season day until they strap the pads on, get back in training camp, and start playing actual games again. We really appreciate you, whether you're tuning in on iTunes, Spotify, or you're with us in the live show. We always appreciate the support. We'll be back to you guys next week. And Bear Don.
Bear Don.